Captain, sorry to disturb you. It's pandemonium outside the bridge gate. One of the officers seems to be demanding an audience with you in person. Okay. Been stopped twice. Just trying to fly. One side of this system to the other side. And I've been stopped twice. And this, I'm not sure about. Demanding. I knew he was coming and you still waited for him to come before you turned the chair out. Everyday sound. This is not the conduct of an officer. These are the antics of a highborn brat out of Lark. Explain yourself, Lieutenant. The young woman standing before Abelard strives with all her might not to quail with the onslaught of her superior's anger. She falters, but then manages to look him in the eye. I apologize, sir, but I must speak to the Lord Captain. Very well, Lieutenant. You may address the Lord Captain, not least because I see you already have seen fit to disturb him. Your unauthorized appearance on the bridge and display of belligerence toward a higher-ranking officer will be logged in your personal file without delay. Lord Captain, Lieutenant Avrilla Vent, requesting permission to speak on a matter of extreme importance and urgency. You may speak, but I want to hear a report. That's okay. Matter cannot wait. Any minute now, an assault unit will be dispatched to the lower decks to crush the worker strike by any means, but I'm convinced that this step is unwarranted and that the crisis itself was provoked by the actions of one of the senior officers. Lord Captain, I urge you to investigate the actions of Sheshnal Bessarian and to intervene in what's happening on the lower decks, because very soon we'll have a mutiny or a massacre on our hands. I shall explain. Beg you to hurry, time's running out. I will not hurry, since my competence is under scrutiny. I shall speak for as long as I see fit. There's an established order to the way things are done on this ship, and one of the pillars of that sentence is that the rogue trader's attention is not distracted by trivial matters. It's the Seneschal's role to ensure that I've always handled internal problems myself. So, of course, when I received information about a cultist hiding on the lower decks, I took the matters into hand. So long as I live, not one of the vermin who murdered Theodora von Valancius will find refuge on her ship. You are far too heavy-handed, Cheshnal Wassarian. Arrest, interrogations, mass punishments for entire sectors is driven the people to the brink. Now there's a strike on the lower decks, in Depot 4, to be precise. 3 worker clans are involved, but many more are passively supporting them. The situation could degenerate into an all-out insurrection, but when I reported my concerns, the only response I received was an order to dispatch an assault unit and crush the strike with maximum force. There's an insurrection in the making and no one's informed me. I would not deem it a problem worthy of the rogue trader's attention. The lower decks, as it so happens, are in revolt. 30 years ago, we even had a revolutionary leader rise up who dared to establish workers' rule across the entire ship. It took a month to restore order, but even 8 years later, we were still battling rumors that the hero had survived his execution and was on the verge of gathering the fight against tyranny once more. Needless to say, they were baseless. As for the current situation, we have sufficient enforcers to deal with it. The word of the Lord Captain carries more weight than the salvo of 100 bolters. I'm sure if the rogue trader addresses the malcontents directly, he will quell the unrest. I dread to think what problem you will disturb the rogue trader with next. Perhaps you will ask to break up brawls in the mess room. I've already given you the means to resolve this problem. You simply need to use them. Sending a hit squad to crush the rebellion is a means of ignoring the problem, not starting it, not solving it. How did this start? Situation boiled over in a minute. I'll give you the condensed version. It began when the enforcers found a cultist amulet on the body of someone who'd been killed in a drunken brawl. We reported up the chain immediately, arranged for a cleansing rite to be performed, and open investigation. No heretics have been found alive, but the search has brought tensions. What do you have to say about all this? I see no need to add anything. I acted with the remit of my authority, well guided exclusively by the best interest of your protectorate and your personal safety. What is Depot for? Forest sectors of the lower decks. It's home to clans of general laborers. They are not as valuable to the ship as the families who have served the specialized systems for generations. I'm going down there. An enterprise bordering on the... Oh, please yourself. However, I categorically insist that I escort you. That's fine. You can escort me. We're gonna have a talk about that, because that's ridiculous. Unacceptable. Not on my ship. Greetings, Your Grace. Of course they were. The organization of the daily routine life of the ship rests upon my shoulders. The mountains of challenges and problems from which I endeavor to insulate you, Lord Captain. The situation on lower decks has been a cause for concern, and I have intervened personally on more than one occasion. That must be why they remember me. They do not know your face. To them, you are akin to creature of legend who stood on the steps of the Golden Throne, no less. Where I am a man who is attached to every order, docking relations and lowering the bay's heating. Keep moving.
The world will bow.
But we're not having this one. That's...
Powers unseen uncover my path. Embrace true power.
Okay.
We should deal with this.
I tread a path unexplored.
All these valves are lit up, but I can't do anything to any of them. Okay. I'll see. Y'all know who I am. A heated discussion reverberate through the ship's bays. Lieutenant Avrila Vent and one of the ship enforcers is barring the path of a heavily built assault unit officer, and judging by their expression and tone, the standoff has dragged on for some time. I have my orders to put an end to the unrest and purge this sector. You can take your orders and shove them. This is my deck and my sector. There are only 3 people who can waltz in here without my express permission. This first officer, the rogue trader, and the Emperor himself. Not all my lessons fall on deaf ears. Your lordship. What's the situation? My people have locked down the bay where the strikers are, including their leaders. We have the situation under control as far as resources allowed. People here are getting desperate, clearly. They saw the assault unit and decided they had nothing to lose. I mean, I apologize, Lord Captain. It is outrageous. Or the people simply didn't recognize you. I want to speak to the strikers. Yeah, stay quiet. Nobody asked your input.
Let's seize the opportunity.
dozen pairs of eyes stare apprehensively at you. The people before you are typical inhabitants of the lower decks. You take in their simple clothes, crude weapons, and faces that display varying levels of mutation, from the barely discernible to the strange and outright grotesque. At least they're bowing. Rivet. A whisper passes through the crowd. Finally, 3 people break away from the crowd. An elderly woman and 2 men. They must be the leaders. They bow clumsily. Lord Captain, you have come down to us. Tell me what is troubling you. Why are you striking? All we're doing is asking questions and saying what we think. Here's the deal, your lordship. Your damned enforcers are all over us down here. They say they're looking for cultists, one wrong word, and they're reaching for their batons. If they want to punish someone, they turn off the heating to whole base for weeks at a time, so we get sick and freeze. In my clan, 2 little ones died from the inflammation in their lungs, all because of those enforcers. Argentia does not interrupt the workers, but you see the sadness well in her eyes over child's death. It's all true. Vent is the only officer who stood up for us. It's clear as day who had a mother from the lower decks and who grew up in midships. Your lordship, we're no villains here. We're honest workers, your servants. We've plotted no disorder. We went on strike openly, and now we've got guns pointed at us. All we're asking is to work in peace without being harassed. The said they were okay. The cultist amulet, what's that? The gewgaw they found on the dead drunkard? If it was something evil or forbidden, we sure didn't know. The enforcers just said they were looking for heretics among us, and anyone obstructing their investigation would be punished. But how could there be heretics here? We know our own people, and there have been no new faces around here. Definitely not, and if there were, we'd be the first to report them. As for this amulet or whatever, they took it off a dead body. There were no cultists still breathing in our sector, that's for sure. But when that fight broke out, some enterprising folks looted the bodies. The boots came back with... Nobody's ever treaded these decks in boots so fine, I can tell you. Seems to me these cultists have better commanders than us. Oh yeah, those boots were really fine, and there was no harm in taking them, right? As for the amulet, it must have been pocketed by someone who didn't know any better. We don't need any amulets out here. We all worship the Emperor, and we're all working... When we're working, we bow down before the machine spirits of the large and small transformers and the servo motor. The same way my grandfather was taught 100 years ago by a tech priest who came calling. Believe us, your lordship. We are people of faith. Naive children. Weren't you taught from an early age about the dangers of the archenemy's creation? Weren't you warned that any unfamiliar object could be one of them? We were told, Holy Sister, but that was long ago. The last time we saw a confessor in our sector, it was just after I'd had my 3rd little one. That is regrettable. You cannot lay the burden of leading a righteous life on the shoulders of your holy fathers. Who will you blame when the beast crawls out of those amulets you stole from the heretics? The Holy Father was not there, or the scavenger who brought the evil down on himself and his neighbors. Abelard, do you have anything to add? I authorized the use of all necessary measures to locate chaos worshippers hiding in the sector. The specific steps taken by the officer were not reported to me. Nevertheless, I am certain that their actions were justified. Cultists are no drunken stevedores. They are the enemies and a threat to the ship. Neutralizing them demands decisive action. We were attacked on the way here. How do you explain this? Here's an explanation for you. The people have been pushed to their limits and they're lashing out. As we don't know why these top deck units are being sent here, like the one there that the lieutenant won't let pass. Our clans are all on the inside of the bay that has been sealed off, but the lower decks are big. I'm sure there are some people who've had just about enough. We're getting it from all sides. The soldiers have encircled the ones who's risen up, and the death squad has just arrived. No wonder folks are lashing out. Yeah, you're not wrong. The words seem sincere to you. Their body language and their glances traded between them reveal that the news of the attack has shocked them. What changes do you want? Would you look at this? The exalted Lord Captain himself is asking us bilge rats what we want. Well, here's what we want. We want you to rein in your damned enforcers, to quit turning off the heat and stop battering everything that moves. No, that's not it. We want the enforcers gone from here, and we want to be armed. That's not happening. Give us arms and we'll govern ourselves. We'll defend ourselves if these cultists do. I've been a leader of my clan for 20 years now. Getting rid of these club-wielding thugs can only improve we can get the the enforcers being backed off, I'm cool with. I don't know about the whole you guys being armed. You've gone too far. They'll never let the maggots on the lower decks live without the enforcers breathing on their neck, as they probably even insist enforcers on the upper decks too. As for weapons, what do we need them for? Before the first day's out, we'll have someone shooting their neighbor out of stupidity or drunkenness. Exactly. We don't need that. If the enforcers stop hassling us, that'll be enough. In return, we'll find the scavengers who robbed the cultist body and we'll talk to them, one lower deck to another. If there are any more of those damned amulets, we'll hand them over. Speak for yourself and your clan, and I'll speak for me and mine. I don't want empty gestures. I want real change. So promise us the world now, but as soon as the anointed one turns his back, these brutes will be on us even harder than before, all because we dared to speak out. Every few seconds... Abelard? Story about going scavenging for boots and accidentally picking up doesn't convince me. These people were moments away from rebelling and possibly becoming minions of the archenemy. We must not give them what they want, even if they did acquire something innocently, purely out of their own stupidity. That does not mean it is not tainted with corruption. What begins as petty thievery can turn into a far graver problem. I have seen it before. In my second war, there was a sergeant in the Imperial Guard regiment that was stationed nearby. The sergeant took an ordinary pocket knife from the body of a heretic, and his whole unit lost their lives for it. When they managed to break into the barracks, they found out not a single survivor, only the pocket knife, which had grown through all the rows of beds like a metal choking vines. When it comes to scavengers, malcontents, strikers, or whatever they'll turn into next, my verdict is simple. Give them no quarter. Spreading anarchy on the ship is the first step towards embracing chaos, putting weapons in untrained hands. What's more, the enforcers are needed to maintain oversight. I don't want to give them weapons. I'd rather be gunned down by the enforcers than back down now. They'll have to kill us anyway, sooner or later. Then it's decided. The harassment will end, and I will expect the clans who have agreed here to assist in locating cultists, amulets, and weapons. I'm not giving you weapons. Then it's decided. Harassment will end. I'm not putting my life and my whole clan's lives on the line because of your stubbornness. We are most eager to assist. We'll get right to it, Lord Captain. Exactly.
The world will bow. Powers unseen uncover my path. The world trembles beneath my feet.
I have an urgent matter to discuss with the Lord Captain. Please give us a moment. Are you pleased with your investigation, Lord Captain? You told the disloyal rabble you believed their lies and showed them leniency. Next time the ship is attacked by cultists, the rabble will likely let them in with open arms and allow them to wreak whatever havoc they like because they see you as a weak leader. Is that how you see your future at the helm of the Von Valancius Protectite? Don't talk to me like that. Let's talk about your role in all this. You allowed the revolt to happen. Your actions practically guaranteed it would. I would have handled the situation had you not decided to intervene. Remember Lord Captain Theodora. Do you think she ever slips that one slippered foot in the lower decks? No, she did not. Such matters were left to myself and the junior officers while she dedicated herself to her grand designs for the Protectorate, and any two strategists and rogue traders ought. Maybe if Theodora had spent more time on trifling matters, she wouldn't have wound up dead. There's a new Lord Captain aboard this ship, and I will not repeat her mistakes. I would only be too willing to trust in my sessional and not fill my head with such matters. But the situation... I would be only too willing to trust and not fill my head. But the situation spiraled out of your control. You're right, at least as concerns junior officers making complaints directly to you. And I lost my temperature, and I believe I ought to explain myself. The prosperity of the Von Valancius Protectorate is not just an empty phrase to me. I left the Imperial Navy for the chance to see it flourish. It was the most momentous decision of my life. I did it because I saw in Lord Captain Theodora's deeds the sign of a true greatness. Rogue traders do not simply forge new routes and capture worlds. They create order out of anarchy. The creative impulse was entirely lacking during my time in the military. So I left behind everything I had known, everything my family had known. I come from a long line of officers, and I embarked upon this incredibly reckless venture. Lord Captain Theodora entrusted me with all the concerns she had no time for. She would go on her flagship for long periods to distant frontiers on scouting voyages, and the advancement of the entire Protectorate rested on my shoulders. And then suddenly everything that had been built over years and years began to quake, rattling like a flimsy hanger on a seismically active world. One of the senior officers betrayed us all. The rogue trader was killed, and who knows what is happening on the planets. I tell you this honestly without fear of appearing weak. All this has come as a grievance blow to me. I am not panicking or grieving because I do not allow myself to panic or grieve. I am duty bound to aid the new rogue trader, to aid you, to find your footing as quickly as possible, and to do that I must insulate you from problems that in the past have been dealt with by tried and tested procedures set out by the ship's regulations. Procedures that were established long ago and have functioned smoothly for decades cannot simply be deemed excess to requirements. Theodora trusted in established procedures, and she died. I won't make the same mistake. If you want to keep building the future of Von Valencia Protectorate with me, stop living in the past. That's a little mean. I understand, but you need to learn how to respect me as your Lord Captain and Rogue Trader. Accept it and start living a new world. A world where Theodora is gone, where you and I have new decisions to make. A little bit nicer. The prosperity of the Von Valancius Protectorate is just as important to me. You are the only person who has comprehensive knowledge of how things are run, and I think in the future I will follow your recommendations. Nope, because I'm admitting I'm wrong then. I value what Theodora created, and I trust that this situation is an aberration in the ship's otherwise smooth operation. Since the established procedures are working, I've seen plenty of sentiment and hand-wringing in recent days, but very little competence. I have no plans to rely on your judgment or your tried and tested... This one's not bad. This one is saying that I'm wrong. This one is just flat out being like, you're wrong. Or this one's saying I'm wrong as well. And this one's saying that you're stupid. These two are more... This one is kind of rude, kind of rough. But this one is not bad. Accept it and start... I understand, but you need to learn how to respect me as your Lord Commander, Lord Captain, and Rogue Trader. Accept it. Start living in a world where Theodore is gone, where you and I have new decisions to make. I like that one. Yes, Lord Captain. Your resolve is admirable and demonstrates strong leadership. I shall remember this moment, and should my old habits ever begin to creep back in. But now, please, let us leave the lower decks. If the rogue trader decides to stretch his legs, there are far more suitable places. All right, back to the bridge. Hey, we all leveled up.